I think what it means for Boeing in the short term is that they could probably get, some of these inventory airplanes they've built. They're sitting on tarmacs. They're maintaining them. Cost Boeing a lot of money. They can get them delivered into China. Cerium expects 34 of those airplanes to go in through the remainder of the year. Then get them delivered into China, get them off their books, sort of get rid of that extra expense it costs for them to manage those airplanes, so they can just get on to focusing on the factory floor and building brand new airplanes. So I think it's a positive. We'll see how long it lasts, but it's definitely a positive.
Was this sort of baked into the U.S.-China trade talks, or was this irrespective? Do you have an idea?
Now, I'm not sure what's baked into the U.S.-China talks. We have a report out today, though. I do think that there's an opportunity here for Boeing to get to even new orders from China. We haven't really seen material orders out of China since 2018, so last decade before the pandemic. Relations have been a bit strained since then. I think it's one more piece of evidence that shows, look, as the U.S. and China get into negotiations over trade, you're going to see heavy fracturing, and then we see the markets kind of get very distressed about that. But behind the scenes, there's discussions about putting that relationship back together, and Boeing probably factors in high in those negotiations. And so I think you could go from hey, there's despair here, to, hey, look, there's a 300 airplane order for Boeing coming out of China. So it's going to be a real up and down, I think, roller coaster here.
George, are there airplane manufacturers in China, or do they depend solely on Boeing and Airbus?
They depend largely on Boeing and Airbus. There is a manufacturer, Comac. They've been building a 737 A320, substitute. They call it the Comac C919. The airplane's rolling out slowly. I think we saw 15 or 20 deliveries last year. This is a country that probably needs at least 150 narrow bodies a year, so not going to fulfill all their needs. There's about that many flying right now, and when we look at the flying statistics for that airplane, it's not flying as frequently as A320s and 737s, so it seems to us that the maturity of that product isn't there yet for the Chinese to substitute out all of the Western jets.
Right. So there's still a little bit of a way to go. You also have to wonder, just in general, the comeback that Boeing has been able to make. George, how would you describe the situation that Boeing is in now versus a couple years ago?
Yeah, I think this year is what we expected last year to be before the door came off the door plug in the Alaska jet. We're starting to see good flow through the factory and in the delivery numbers we've seen. We're starting to see them deliver that inventory of built airplanes, like I said, that drag on cost pretty heavily. We're hearing good things about supply chain. They're going to pull Spirit Aerosystems into Boeing by mid-year. That was a big part of their problems. I think pulling them in helps them control quality at Spirit. So I think this story this year should be all about improving quality, improving throughput in the factory, in the back half, some good cash generation. So I think this year is what everybody thought last year would be, which could be a pretty good year.
So where are you, George, in your model in terms of 737 kind of build rate here? Because I know that just, with the economic model for Boeing, that just drives cash flow, the more planes they can get through the line.
We're looking for like a 45 to 50% increase in 737 deliveries this year. So a really heady increase. And again, that's going to be the big driver of cash generation for the company over the year. And probably the exit the year, a build rate per month of 38, we think even maybe into the 40s kind of build rate, which is an area where they should be able to generate some profits.